So I stopped having mocha lattes, you know. My stomach just went boop, like that. So it's been a long time. It's a real blessing to be able to get together like this. Okay. Yeah, it's a real blessing. It's hard for us to really wrap our minds around it, but in this world, in these days, to find this kind of space where you don't have to do anything but let go and absorb some teaching, some practice, wow. It's really incredible. So it'd be good to really take advantage of all the offerings this week and just allow yourself to immerse yourself. Because every day it's kind of like getting into a cold or a hot bath, a little bit at a time, you know. First it's hot, and then you get used to it. By Sunday night, it'll be a different reality, mostly. It's always like that. I went over to Ram Dass's house a couple of days ago. I went up and sat in the room where we used to sit all the time. I sat in the chair where we were next to his chair. We used to sit for hours and hours just with our eyes closed, just sitting there. I was just sitting in the chair, closed my eyes, and I thought, this is not different. This is exactly the same. He's right here. It was really powerful for me. Really powerful. He was an extraordinary being. He really was. Is. His dedication to finding what is real was so extraordinary. And just like you and me, he had tons of shit to deal with, his own stuff. But by the end of his time here, he really had melted into the love. There wasn't much left of Richard. I remember one time, Mondays was the day we used to go to the beach. And they would leave early. By the time I got up and did my stuff, it was later. So I would catch up to them, and I would heading out to the beach, and I saw he was sitting in a car on the side of in the parking lot. And he was sitting in the front seat, and the door was open, and he was just sitting there like, just really. So I walked up, I stood outside the car. He looked at me. He said, I'm a fake. And you're a fake too. So I looked at him and I said, yeah, but we're real fakes. He totally lost it. He almost fell out of the car. We're all fakes. We think we are who we think we are. That's the biggest joke. All these practices that we're hearing about, that we're doing, they're simply designed to release us from our stories, from the storylines that we are imprisoned in this life. Who we think we are. You're not who you think you are. You are who you are. Your thoughts are something else. When we chant, we repeat these sounds, and when you notice that you haven't been paying attention, you come back. That's all you have to do. Nobody told you have to feel good. God forbid, so to speak. Yeah, that's too much pressure. You just let go and come back. The interesting thing is that, so here you are, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, and you're thinking about, what you're going to watch, when you get home, Slow Horses will be finished. You can watch the whole thing, right? And then you go, oh, and then you come back. How did that oh moment happen? How did that moment that you noticed that you were gone, how did that show up? We didn't do that. We were gone. That's pretty cool. You see, you can always come back, but most of the time, the energy or the level of attachment and identification to the thoughts is so strong that we just dream our lives away, basically, most of the time. You get born, you graduate high school, you drink some beer, and you die. And you're not here for one moment. Most people, that's what it is. And, ultimately, that's what inspires and opens our hearts up to real compassion. Because when we start to try to do some work on ourselves, we see how hard it is. We see how difficult it is. We see how much we're programmed, how our minds are running our show, our thoughts are running our show all the time, emotions and banging off of this and reacting to that like pool balls whole life long. And we think we're doing something. Imagine the people who don't even have a clue that there's anything to find, that there's any way of living in a good way in this world. Whoa. So the suffering is of no use to them. It just creates more and more suffering. But because of because of some grace and some good karmas, we have some vague idea there might be something else to find, another way of being here. It's a really big thing. We don't really recognize what a big thing that is. It's a really big thing. Maharaji used to say, he used to tease us, he said, I have the keys to the mind. I could turn your minds against me. I could transfer you. Transfer ho jayega. He said, I'll transfer you. And Baba, don't do that. And he'd laugh. So I said to Siddhi Ma once, I said, Ma, Maharaji said he has the keys to the mind. Okay. So that, to me, that means that I am where he has put me, where he pushed me. That's where I am. Because if he has the keys to the mind, then that's where I am, where he puts me. So Ma, what's the deal? Is it all his doing? Is it all grace? Or is my effort required? Right? This traditional, the famous thing, grace or effort, right? So she said, Krishna Das, it's all grace. But you have to act like it isn't. Ooh. But it's so true. Because we like, we like to up-level everything in our head. So it's all grace. There's nothing to do. I'll just chill. But then we feel like shit all the time. And we don't treat ourselves well or others. So, And even Ramana Maharshi said that everything that's going to happen to the body is written when you're born. The only option is not to identify with that, is to identify with the self instead of the body. So in other words, it's all done. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. But we don't know that. We don't know that. So we have to make the effort to remember, the effort to untie those knots that bind us to our thoughts and emotions and the stories and all the karmic imperatives that we carry with us all lifelong. And that's what all these practices are for. Maharaji said, Ram Nam Karne Se Sapura Ho Jata Hai. From going on repeating these names, Ram Nam essentially means the names of God, what we usually chant. Everything is accomplished. Okay, see you later. What more do we want? That's what he said. And he knows. So I heard that 50 years ago. Have I spent the last 50 years repeating the name of God? No. I've been watching TV, doing all kinds of terrible things to myself, and enjoying it. So, but he said that. Through the repetition of the name, everything is accomplished. Now, so that's what he said. Just try to remember that once in a while. When you're lost in thoughts, or you're depressed, or you're freaking out about something. Just try to remember the name again and again. Every repetition of the name is a seed that we plant in our own being, in our own hearts. And those seeds will grow. When they grow is up to them, not to us. It's our job to plant the seeds. We don't plant, they don't grow. All we can do is plant the seeds. And taking care of those seeds means learning how to live in a good way in the world. Trying not to give ourselves such a hard time. Trying to treat other people the way we would like to be treated. Hey, if we did that, the world would be a different place immediately. But we don't do it. It's interesting, isn't it? It's really very simple. But it's from doing these practices that we do get the strength to treat other people the way we want to be treated. It takes a certain amount of courage and strength to really do that kind of stuff. That's all it is. Because as they say, as the other thing he used to do, he used to go like this. You know? And of course, he knew everything, so we didn't know what we were getting busted for. You know, something we did, something we're gonna do, or something we're thinking about doing. So, Baba, what does that mean? And he goes, what does that mean? Many names, many forms, all one. All one. That's the bottom line, really. In this room, there are like, what, a few hundred people. Those are little bubbles. Each person is a bubble. And inside of that bubble, and that bubble thinks it's a bubble. Well, you think you're you, I think I'm me. But what's in that bubble is exactly the same in every bubble. That's the one. And so when we're not stuck with our thoughts and not identified with all our stuff, we begin to get a taste of what that feels like, not to be so self-centered. But life goes on. One time I was sitting with him in a Bombay apartment building, and he was lying on the bed. I was sitting on the floor doing my practice, which was just staring at him. He's lying this way, he sits up, he's lying that way. You know, like a couple hours went by, and all of a sudden he sits up, and he looks at me and goes, "Courage is a really big thing." And the Indian guy there said, "Oh, Baba, God takes care of his devotees." He looks at me, he said, "Courage is a really big thing." There have been times in my life that I had the vaguest memory of that moment, and that was just enough to save my ass. Sometimes it's difficult. A lot of hard stuff comes up in life. And these days we're living in like the atmosphere of extraordinary tension and violence and anger and fear. And we're swimming in it all the time. It's everywhere. And it affects us in so many ways. And we take it personally. Without knowing it, you know, we let that anxiety kind of fester in us. That's why practice is so important. Spending a little time every day, just chilling your ass out, just for a few minutes. It's a very big thing. It doesn't seem like a big thing. But just sitting and letting go for a couple of minutes, and not trying to get high and feel happy and blissful, that's a waste of time. Just let go. Just breathe. Let the breath come and go. Just for a few minutes. We have to, one of the definitions of meditation is becoming familiar. So we have a lot of bad habits. Habits that cause pain, that's bad. Habits of thought, habits of action, all the ways we think about ourselves. So limiting and so harsh, so judgmental. So we have to become familiar with what it's like to let go of that stuff. It's not easy. It just doesn't happen overnight. It takes some effort. All right, so do we have a microphone? Are we going to do questions? Is there anybody in charge of this world? JR is in charge. Does anybody have anything to say or ask? You can just raise your hand.
Come over here.
Really? Pass it around. Who gives a shit? You're going to make people get up? No, you'll get up. They're too lazy. All right, get up. I have nothing to say about it. Yeah, hi.
Hi, Krishna.
Das.
Das.
Thank you.
So, you met Baba Karoli in his incarnational life and then in his way of being present when his body was gone. What do you think was his gift to us Western or to you Westerners back then? And is it the same now or has it changed? What was your feeling about that?
You're here, aren't you? That was his gift. That is his gift. Everything right here. This all comes from him. Through Ram Dass, through the rest of us in some way. This is his gift, helping us remember love, helping us find something real, in spite of what's going on in the universe, it seems. He showed us real love and planted those seeds inside of us that grow over the years. But he never changed. He doesn't change. When I was sitting in Ram Dass's room the other day, I was remembering when I first met Ram Dass in 1968 in the winter. I walked into the room where he was sitting, and instantly, immediately, I knew that whatever it was I was looking for was real. It was real, it was in the world, and you could find it. Of course, then I got really depressed, because if it's real and it's in the world and you can find it, where the fuck is it? However, that moment was life-changing for me. So what I re-recognized as I was sitting there with Ram Dass in his house just the other day was that what I felt that moment hasn't changed in 50 plus years. It's exactly that moment I met Maharaji. And that presence, that being, has been unchanging and ever present in every moment of my life, even when I'm not paying attention and don't feel it. That's the good part. Like he said, once I take your hand, I never let go, even when you let go of mine. By the way, not if you let go, when you let go, because he knew what we do. So yeah, that's the story. Where's the mic? Oh, there it is. Okay.
Hi, Krishna Das.
Hello.
I want to point out the incredible irony of having to get farther away from you to get closer to you.
It's all illusion, don't worry about it.
A friend of mine a while back, he realized that he was always asking so much of his crystals. Every day asking so much of these things to do this and that for him and give me this wisdom or that type of thing. And
Crystal meth?
no. Those crystals talk. Yeah, they do talk to you, you're right. But he realized that he was always asking so much of these sacred objects that he didn't ask them if they needed anything. And I'm sitting here with you, and I think so many people come to you for advice, and I'm kind of more interested in what it's like to be Krishna Das in this moment. And I'm just curious, how is it being you? And I don't mean the answer that, I'm sure it's all grace and you teach so much, but like, the guy who gets asked so much, are we making it easy on you? Can we do anything for you?
If he comes back, I'll ask him. It's not relative. I don't know what you're talking about.
You have my admiration.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. People do thank me a lot. It's a nice thing. It took me a long time to say, you're welcome. It took me years to say that. But are you kidding? He's the one doing everything. Come on. Let's face it. I can't even stay on the right side of the road when I'm driving. That little thing says, maybe it's time to take a break. You ever see that thing rent a new car? I got an old car, it doesn't do that, but this car, it's like, bang, and what's that? Take a break. Fuck you. Please, this is the man right there. He's doing everything. He can look like a lot of things. He can look like anything he wants to look like. And he looks like you, too, by the way. Okay.
Das, my intention of coming here was to come up with better habits for daily practices. And even what
Boring.
So if you had 5 minutes in the morning, what would you do?
I have 5 minutes in the morning. I don't do shit. What do you want? If I wake up, by the time I roll out of bed, check my email and read the paper, It's time to do something. It's all right, it's 6 o'clock at night, time to sing. Everybody you have to find your own rhythm, your own thing, what works for you. That's the beauty of the path. You can't follow, there's no blueprint. There's basic concepts. But what's going to work for you is what comes out of you, what you feel you need to do. That's how you find your stuff. The whole path is, first of all, learning how to trust ourselves. Because if we don't trust ourselves, where do we sit? Where do we land? Where do we feel what we want to feel? We're too busy, we'd be too closed. We have to learn to trust our own hearts and listen to that and follow that guidance that comes from within. Because that's where it all is. It's all within. It might look like it's outside, but that's okay. You still have to trust. Somebody tells you something and you say, that's right, that feels good. Where did it feel good? In that person? No, it felt good in you. Right? So yeah, we have to trust ourselves. We have to learn how to really do that much more deeply. Because that's all we have really, ultimately, is our own self, our own states of mind to deal with.
Ram Ram.
Hi.
So, in the beginning, you were talking about how everything is written, or it's been said by great saints.
That's what they say, yeah.
Yes.
That's,
And I know you've also heard that the Hanuman Chalisa changes fate, and I'm just wondering how to reconcile those two.
what's the problem? If you can change it, then it was also written that it would change. All right? So let's talk about that for a minute. Maharaji said, first of all, the Hanuman Chalisa. You know how we got that? You know how that happened? Okay, so when we first got to India, we were staying in the local town nearby, and we'd come to the temple every day. And when we came in the temple, they gave us this little yellow booklet with a flying monkey on it, right? I had 100 of these booklets in my room when one day, all of a sudden, I said, oh, by the way, what is this? And he said, oh, it's a prayer to Hanuman. Oh. And we were always trying to find out how to get more time with Maharaji. And he liked to hear us sing. We know about 2 chants or 1. And so he would call us and we would sing, then he would send us away. So I thought, well, if we learned this, and also we began to see, we were new in India. We didn't know the culture. We didn't speak the language. So we would watch the Indian devotees and see how they related with him to kind of get a feeling of how to do this. How do you go from here, etc. So we saw that most of them actually looked upon Maharaji as being Hanuman himself. So this was a prayer to Hanuman. So I thought, okay, if we learn this, we could sing it to him, and then, that'll be good, because we could spend more time with him. That's all we wanted to do. And so soon after that, we got banished to Kosani. Ramdas had arranged for a Buddhist meditation teacher to come up for the rainy season. But just before the rainy season, he wrote to us and said that he couldn't come. So Maharaji sent us anyway. I mean, thinking about it, we actually took ourselves hours and hours away from Maharaji when he was just sitting there in the temple. I can't imagine what we were thinking. Transfer ho jayega. We were transferred. He got rid of us for a while. So then me and Rameshwar Das, we spent like the whole rainy season going syllable by syllable. First we had to learn the Hindi alphabet. Then we had to transliterate it sound by sound by sound, It took months. And then there was this guy up there who taught us a melody. And that's how it happened. So, so Maharaji used to say that Hanuman, every line of Hanuman Chalisa is Maha Mantra, the name. And that the chanting of the Hanuman Chalisa can change karmas. I think he probably, I don't know what word there is for fate, but karmas. So Hanuman is considered to be what they call the son of the wind. And in the body, wind is prana. And the prana flows through the 84,000 or so channels in the body, in the nadis. And it's in the nadis, which is our subtle body, that trauma and negativity is stored. And those are blockages in those channels. And so the prana, which is life force, which is energy, which is love, essentially, is blocked in different areas. So the son of the wind can remove those blockages. And that's what he says, sankatakate, destroyer of calamity, remover of hardships. And so through invoking that being, who is Maharaji, who is Hanuman, some of those knots and blockages in our own subtle bodies can be removed. And it's those blockages that create karmic reactions to things. We're closed down, we're broken, we're this, we're hurt, all that stuff. So as that stuff is washed away by the flow of prana, things change. That doesn't mean it wasn't written that they wouldn't change. If it changed, it was written it would change. But that's kind of what I think might happen. But I don't have the good housekeeping seal of approval on that. But, so yeah.
Thank you.
Hi.
Yeah.
I've always loved Bernie's Chalisa melody. It was one of the ones that helped me learn it in the beginning. And the other night when you sang it, I felt him for the first time. I didn't get to meet him in the body, and you've talked about him so many times. But I really felt him, and I would love to know how you came to be close with him, and if you talked about, which I'm sure you did, Maharaji. What did he say of?
So what was the last thing you said?
When you talked about Maharaji, like, how did he? I'm curious what he ever said or what those conversations might have sounded like.
Mostly we just sat around while he smoked cigars. But I met him first at the Shivananda ashram in the Bahamas on the eve of the millennium. That was the first year I went there. And I had seen his picture in a tricycle and those magazines. He looked so scary. I thought, I don't want to meet this guy. He was taking people out in the street on these homeless retreats. Because you see, he ran the meditation retreats, the sessions they're called, at the Zen Center in LA. And he was able to create a situation where people would have these powerful experiences, breakthrough experiences. But as time went on, he saw that they always came down, they came back. And he began to understand that it's fear that brings us back down, that destroys those glimpses we get of reality. And so he decided to go right to the fear. And he would take people, he started the Zen Peacemakers, and he would take people to these places like Northern Ireland, Rwanda, Israel, where there's all kinds of stuff going on. And they would sit there and they would try to get the sides talking. And wherever there was crazy, fearful places, he was happy to go. And he would go out in the street with people, no credit cards, no money, nothing. You ate in a soup kitchen, you slept in the park or a church. you know, and you have to deal with a lot of stuff to do that. So I was, fuck this guy, I have nothing to do with this. So then I get to the Bahamas, and there he is, right? And I said, oh, shit. And he comes up to me, and he says, I listen to you every day. I said, what? You can't do that. You're a Zen master. He said, I'm a Zen master. I can do what I want. So that was it. Love at first blop. Yeah, we just fell in love. It was so beautiful. He was so sweet to me. He kind of saw me as a stupid younger brother, you know. It wasn't, you know, sweet guy, but not very together, you know. Nah, I don't know. I can't say that. That's not true. But he was very kind to me, very sweet. We had so much fun together. And you know, one of the other things he does, he organized these retreats in Auschwitz. And I was dedicated to not going to that. I avoided it at all costs. And one day I drove him home from somewhere, and we were sitting in the backyard. He was smoking a cigar, and at night we were sitting there in quiet, and he says, I want you to come to Auschwitz. Fuck. All right. And so I went twice, and it was a really powerful experience, as you might imagine. And he loved Ram Dass very much. He really did. He loved them. They loved each other very much. I don't remember him talking much about Maharaji, but he used to listen to me talk about Maharaji. And he liked that. Okay. I'm sorry? Oh, we're talking about Bernie Glassman, Zen master from Brooklyn. Yeah. He started the Zen Peacemaker community, which is still going on. Very good group. If you want to get involved with them, it's good. Hi.
Pranam, Ram. Okay, bear with me. I'm prepared.
There's no guarantee on that.
I guess I'm speaking a word to the audience to bear with me. I'm trying to make this question as linear as possible.